distinguishes in Israel's case is those who were actually citizens, as we would define them, and those who simply were residents. Near as I can figure out, Israel had no limitations on residence. Anybody could come there and live, and in fact, I think it was God's intent, because it was part of God's plan to evangelize the nations. Okay? He wanted people to come there, see what it was like to live in a place where they were operating under God's law. Okay? However, they had to abide by Israel's laws. They did not have to offer any of the sacrifices of Israel. They did not have to go to the temple. However, they were not permitted to offer sacrifices to Moloch or Baal or anybody else. So it's kind of interesting, their perspective on that. All right? Now, they did have...
Did they do taxes? Did they have to give towards the government?
They didn't necessarily have to give towards the government out of the tithe. I don't know, by the time Solomon comes to power and Solomon starts exercising his taxing authority, if he gets away with that, and it's not clear to me from the law. But the other interesting thing with immigration then gets back to the issue of citizenship, and I'm just going to write down this. What's interesting is that the family gets to determine who its members are. The church gets to determine who its members are.
Well, that's changing, you understand.
Yeah. And the state gets to decide who its members are. And the problem that Herb is alluding to is that the government wants to be able to tell this group who their members are and this group who their members are.
And more importantly, who their leaders are.
And who their leaders are. So, but the point here is that what was Israel's model as far as membership in Israel? And the scriptures are there for you to look up if you haven't yet. Okay? At least some of them.
Akin to don't reject an Edomite. I believe it was the Edomites. He can enter after 3 generations, but who's the other nation? If these people who didn't let you go through, or who scorned Israel's people, if they want to become a member, don't let them in until 10 generations.
Right. And that's what Deuteronomy 23 is about. Okay? Now, think about that for a minute. What's going on here? It's interesting that it's not, learn the laws of Israel and pass a test. Although, in order for them to become members of the assembly, they did have to then follow the laws. Right? They became Jews. All right? But why 3 generations, or why 10 generations? What's going on?
They wanted to see the fruit of their life as a family.
I don't think it was just simply a passive thing, Stacy.
I mean, they expected that that it wasn't just some irrational decision that they wanted to become an Israelite, but that they had to prove things.
Kind of. Yes, Steve.
It's been shown from research that by the 3rd or 4th generation, the kids and the grandkids have become pretty much naturalized into the society.
Right.
And so they were trying to make sure that they would have the people who were living among them would then become basically Israelites of a completely different race, but Israelites.
Right. And so basically it dealt with the whole issue of what were their cultural suppositions and worldview by the time of the 3rd generation. And I think the difference was how far away were these specific nations from any kind of a relationship with God. The closer they were in any kind of a relationship with God, the less time it was. The further away they were, the more time it was. Okay, John?
One of the huge things is only about 2 guys out of 2 million that made the transition from the slave mentality of Israelite in Egypt to being able to want to go into the promised land and accept what God had given them. They had a really hard time making that transition from slavery to freedom in 1 generation.
They did. That's a good point. So, we're going to stop there. Maybe we'll pick up next week, although we wanted to get on with the constitutional stuff again. But we thought
we're not going to be here next week.
Oh, next week. Yeah, no class next week, right? Easter. So,
Can I make an announcement?
let me finish up, Debbie.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
I
yeah.
thought you were going to close in prayer.
Yeah, I'm getting ready to.
Okay.
So, but, I would just challenge you to go back, if you haven't finished filling this out, go back and look at some of those scriptures. You probably can add some of your own. My intent here, again, more was to challenge your thinking than to give you the answers. All right? So any questions about what we talked about today, or are you guys just ready to get out? All right. Let me close in our prayer, and then you can make your announcement, okay? Father, we thank you for this time this morning. And Lord, I just pray that we would be students of your word, that we would take what you have written seriously, that we would recognize, Father, that by following your word, we're choosing life against choosing death. Father, our nation desperately needs to hear the gospel of life. I just pray that we would be good witnesses to that gospel by living what we say we believe. Help us to bring life to our country. We just pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen. Debbie, what would you like to?
Did you already announce it?
Well, I alluded to it. You
Okay.
went